Welcome to the Get Trauma Informed podcast, dedicated to unraveling the complexities of trauma, its pervasive impact, and the journey towards holistic recovery and realignment. If your radiance has ever felt muted, like I and thousands of others, you're in the right place to reignite your inner light. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Get Trauma Informed podcast. We are launching our mini trauma recovery talk in an 8-part series. In this series, we are talking about and discussing trauma-informed leadership. I often quote that 70 to 80% of the population have suffered from trauma, and 20 to 30% are supporting those with trauma. So therefore, it bears the reason that 100% of us, that means each one of us in some form or fashion, trauma has touched our life. So when we don't recognize trauma, we unknowingly re-traumatize others. Let me repeat that. When we don't recognize trauma, we unknowingly re-traumatize others. That's why it's so important that we understand what this looks like. Trauma comes in several types. We can brush trauma in acute, or we can categorize it as acute trauma, chronic, or complex. Now, trauma does impact the brain, the body, and behavior. There is definitely a connection between trauma and leadership breakdowns. So we want to understand why understanding trauma is essential for everyone in leadership. And we all are called to be leaders, whether it's leaders at home, in our home environment, or leaders in our church, leaders in our workplace. We are all called in some form or fashion to be a leader. Trauma isn't just about an extreme event. It comes in different forms. Acute trauma is from a single shocking incident. Chronic trauma is from prolonged stress like abuse or toxic workplaces. And complex trauma, which often starts in childhood and shapes how we relate to the world. What makes trauma tricky is that it's often invisible, right? It's invisible, so it doesn't look like a broken arm or a cut or a gash, yet it is profoundly impactful to the brain, the body, and behavior. It rewires the nervous system. So it has us acting the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. When we talk about fawn response, we are talking about appeasing, right? Oftentimes we talk about people pleasing. And sometimes we think that somebody is an over helper, right? That's how we can start to identify someone that has gone through trauma, because they will people please versus even at the sacrifice of themselves. And this causes overreaction or shutdown in situations that feel unsafe. Stand there right there for a minute in that unsafe space. Trauma removes the ability for us to feel safe. So now every place feels unsafe, though we have to show up in our lives and we must show up for other people. But a person, imagine or put yourself in their shoes for a minute. If it's not you that have suffered from trauma, but you're supporting or leading others that have gone through trauma, imagine every step you take feels unsafe. Every place you've been at feels unsafe, or enter into feels unsafe, but you still must show up. That means we're suffering in silence, and we have this mask up that everything is okay when on the inside it's not. Even when there's no current danger, a person still feels unsafe. A person that have suffered trauma. Physically, trauma shows up as fatigue, sleep issues, chronic tension. Behaviorally, it can look like withdrawal, control issues, or people pleasing. That's what we talked about that trauma response of appeasing, right? In the workplace, these responses are often mislabeled as bad attitude or poor performance when they're actually symptoms of unaddressed trauma. And we talk about trauma being progressive, meaning that trauma doesn't go away. It sits there like festering food, and then one day we erupt or explode, and then we do that and it's out of character. But that's because that trauma was sitting there. When leaders don't understand trauma, they unintentionally re-trigger others and lead from a place of control and fear. This creates what we call leadership breakdown. Environments marked by burnout, miscommunication, high turnover, and low trust. As leaders, if we experienced trauma ourselves and haven't processed it, we may lead reactively rather than responsibly. That's why trauma-informed leadership starts with awareness. When we begin to recognize the signs of trauma in ourselves and others, we create space for healing, safety, and authenticity. If you want to hear more about or learn more about trauma-informed leadership, contact us at oasiswellnessctrs.com. And we'll be back next week for part 2. Bye for now. It's time to buckle up. No more suffering in silence. Our Power Pack journey to recovery and realignment starts now. Remember, you are collateral damage on someone else's warpath. Trauma is not your fault. Recovery, however, is your responsibility. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast.